that would give entitlement to claim total control or the right to permanently transfer primary rights to another person. Land rights in Vanuatu are not individual rights. They are group rights. Individuals may have a lot of power, but they would never be in a position to give away land, which was really the land of the group as a whole. While group claims are quite common in customary land tribunals, there's a growing tendency for individuals to present themselves as sole owners in a case, and thus obtain legal status to a land claim that is simply not following the principles of custom, which almost always emphasizes group rather than individual rights. People are aware of this, but they make decisions. I mean, and people still talk about it's my land. And this whole concept of I own land, I don't like to use the word own. Nobody owns land traditionally. You hold the rights to land to pass on. You're a custodian of those. And so this idea where an individual has primary rights for a while, that doesn't really entitle that person to pass them on. But this is starting to be the practice, or at least the thinking of many. Likewise, the operation of the customary land tribunal system has given rise to challenges against long-existing rights to land held by immigrants from an earlier time, known in Bislama as mankam, men who have come. And this is a big problem. There was a lot of movement of Ni Vanuatu in the 19th century. Movement to plantations to work, volcanic eruptions where people had to be forced out. And when the population was much lower, they were able to move to islands. They'd have a friend, come, stay here. Build your house over there. And they were permanent. And what has happened, that influenced by the provision in the Constitution stating that, quote, all land in the Republic of Vanuatu belongs to the indigenous custom owners and their descendants. Because of that, a growing number of, let's call them greedy people, are using this provision to challenge the land rights granted to Mankam by earlier generations. People who in the past would most likely, over time, have been subsumed into the group through intermarriage and contribution to community life. And in fact, if you really talk to anyone in Vanuatu, way, way back, people came from some other place. I mean, this isn't really, it was big in the 19th century, but it's the history of land, of movements of people and land rights. This development reflects a growing shortage of land in some areas, and the attempt by the descendants of the original landholders to deal with what they see as a growing problem of shortage. The effect, however, is to create unnecessary tension and stress among Mankam, and has the potential to divide long-existing peaceful communities. I have a friend in Vila. He's from Tomoa. It's a very crowded island. His father came, and he had an old friend on Ifira, and the friend said, "You just build your house right there. That's yours." Almost there. And he's buried. The old man is buried on Ifira, but the sons say, "No, you have to get out." So it's a tragedy what's happening, and this is custom. Supposedly custom is doing this. Another issue, it concerns contact with, I'll skip that one. Position of women in relation to customary land tribunal is also of concern. The standard comment from men is in this regard is that women do not speak in the Nakamal, this is the speaking grounds, the area, and thus they do not have the right to be included among the adjudicators in a land tribunal. Many men will admit that women are important sources of information regarding actual custom knowledge and practice, especially in matrilineal systems, and indeed women have given evidence at a number of tribunals. But given the proclaimed desire of the people of Vanuatu to improve the status of women, this is a real anomaly that needs to be dealt with in the future. If, they'll say custom doesn't allow it, okay. Are we living 200 years ago, or where are we? So it's one of those things that the Customary Land Tribunal hasn't dealt with. It is not in there. And for me, one of the big issues is that, perhaps the biggest, is the concern among a number of key stakeholders about the long-term effect of the operation of the Customary Land Tribunal. The long-term effect on the well-being of Ni Vanuatu. That settlement of disputes is being driven by the goal of opening up land for development, without enough safeguards to ensure that Ni Vanuatu do not find themselves short of land for their own use in the not-too-distant future. You want to start some kind of rural project and you've got a land dispute. The investors are not happy. The aid donors are not happy. The World Bank isn't happy. You know, this custom land is blocking development. And there are people who say, thank goodness for land disputes. They've saved Vanuatu. You solve the land disputes, you turn land, then you have a boundary, you have a commodity that can be bought and sold. And where we may have plenty of land right now in Vanuatu, the crowded areas are all over the place. The thousands of landless people are now moving into Vila. I mean, this is just a potential time bomb. And so this is, for me, it's a real, you know, I've come away from this, you know, customary land tribunal system, which sounded so good as a way to help Ni Vanuatu using their custom principles, which they identified with and understood, to solve problems. But in fact, it looks like you know, this is allowing this pressure to open up land to actually happen. And Ni Vanuatu have no money. You know, you offer somebody $10,000 for a beautiful piece of waterfront land, looks in his bank account, he has nothing, of course he'll take it. And the leasing is there, the arrangements, and they lease it out. And what needs to, in my view, what needs to happen is much more effort needs to be made on ensuring that the leasing system doesn't exploit Ni Vanuatu, that at least when they want to lease land, that they get a decent deal from it. So this is not a finished story. Resolving customary land disputes is still a big issue right now in Vanuatu. And, I think the country has got to come to terms with where it's going. If it really wants to sell off, and by the way, there's more land now in the hands of foreigners in Vanuatu today than there was before the days. It's leased, but long leases, which really mean alienation. And the issue about how you get it back, compensation hasn't been worked out. There's a worry that they can't even pay out the compensate for capital investments, and in fact, they may find that they've lost land already. So, in the name of custom, I think the situation really is quite dangerous in Vanuatu with regard to the future of Ni Vanuatu land rights. I'm sorry I'm all over that.